Hello and welcome to The Big Question on NDTV Profit. I'm Vikram Oza. Now, Donald Trump seems to have done it again. He's dropped another blockbuster headline. So the US president now wants to slap a 100% tariff on all films that are made outside America, and he claims Hollywood has been stolen by other countries. Now, if this proposal, or a threat, if you may like to call it, if that goes through, and of course it is still a big if, India's stake here cannot be ignored. Remember, we are the world's largest filmmaking hub, and we are a steady supplier of content to North America. Our Telugu, our Hindi blockbusters from RRR and Pathan to our Bahubali 2, all of them have pulled in more than 150 to 200 crore rupees in US theaters. And on the streaming front, if you look at it, there's Bollywood and regional cinema, and they've kept the OTT platforms buzzing with fresh content. So this could be bigger than just box office glamour as well, because if you look at jobs or revenues or co-productions, also the soft part of Indian storytelling, there's a lot at stake here. The problem, though, is that nobody knows how these tariffs would actually work, not yet. Like, would they hit both OTT releases and theatrical runs? And what about the Hollywood blockbusters that outsource their VFX and post-production to India? Will they get caught in this crossfire as well? Some are arguing that US studios could end up shooting themselves in the foot, but for now, we're looking at this from the India lens. Is this a genuine threat to our film's global run? Or just another round of Trumpian theatre that may never make it past the fine print, so to speak? And that's exactly what we're asking tonight on The Big Question. Trump's 100% tariff threat on foreign films, or at least films made outside the US. If he acts on it, do Indian movies risk losing global ground? And to weigh in, let's connect with our panel. Shibashish Sarkar is the president of the Producers Guild of India. And we also have film exhibitor Akshay Rathi joining us on this discussion. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. First to you, Mr. Sarkar, from the Producer Guild's standpoint, how real is the threat to Indian filmmakers? Do you see it as aimed at Bollywood or really at Hollywood productions that are shot outside the US?
I think first thing first is that looking at our experience over the last 6 months, whatever we are seeing, Mr. Trump has been announcing, it is better to wait till we see some executive order or some circular comes out. Honestly, as I read, the only communication till now is the communication in the Truth Social post, and it looks that it is more addressed towards why and how the Hollywood productions, which has left US and has been shooting outside that country, how he can bring them back to safeguard his own jobs or employment or investment from an US's perspective. So probably if that is the case, then in that situation, those tariffs will be attracted only towards the US films currently being shot outside US. And if they're being brought back to US, how he want to disincentivize them. And maybe at an India level, we may or may not need to be need to comprehend the matter right now or react to the matter right now.
Yes.
But if it really does
so there is a big if. There is no doubt about that.
There is a big if.
There is a big if. There is no taking away from that. But let me take this across to film trade analyst Komal Nahata. He's also joining us on this discussion. Komal, going and taking away from what we're just hearing from the Producers Guild, of course, there is a big if to Trump's threat over here. But I'm wondering if the Americans, as far as our releases are concerned, if they account for 35 to 40% of our overseas theatrical revenue, I'm wondering if any selective kind of enforcement that the Trump administration brings in is actually going to hurt our producers.
It will. One doesn't know whether he's targeting the Indian films or he's trying to save the Hollywood industry by only talking this about Hollywood films. But if it is, according to me, it will impact Indian films because he is likely to take the view that this is a film which is coming to US and not shot in the US. So it could impact the business of Indian films also.
Correct.
Secondly, the practice of Hollywood studios outsourcing work to India, whether special effects, visual effects, that could be impacted. Thirdly, Hollywood companies like Netflix and the OTT platforms, they greenlight projects in India, and those films or those web series are available for the world market.
Yes.
Now, even their release in the US could be impacted. So it's a multi-pronged effect and impact. And there is not much clarity. What Shivashish Sarkar has just said this
Yes.
as guild president.
Yes.
I agree with him that we are waiting for more clarity. But
Let me get
he's so
Akshay's take
whimsical
as
and
well.
he's
Let me
given
just get
to these outbursts.
initial
so
take.
one doesn't know what he has in mind.
Yes, that is not clear, and that is firmly established. But if this does go through, Akshay, do weigh in on this. You run theatres, you know how diaspora audiences behave. If ticket prices double because of a 100% tariff in the US, would it actually deter Indians in America from watching Indian films in cinema halls there?
Yes, it will. It will be very, very... Sorry.
Sorry,
This
I
was
was
for
asking
Akshay.
Akshay. Sorry, just for a moment.
Sure. So, Vikram, it's a chicken and egg scenario, right? Of course, with the tariffs imposed, if the fine print is to the tune of what all of us are anticipating to be the worst case scenario, if the tariffs are jacked up to 100%, naturally the ticket prices would go up. But then the exhibition sector in North America, much like in many other parts of the world, is also under pressure. And the revenues for theaters don't just come from ticket sales, they come from a lot of other avenues that only come into play when footfalls happen.
Yeah.
So there could be a scenario where exhibitors in North America may want to try and work around scenarios where they cushion the impact of these tariffs by possibly rationalizing the prices of these foreign language films to make sure that patrons of Indian cinema, especially Hindi and Telugu, which are huge in North America, people are actually incentivized and excited enough to turn up at the theaters in significant numbers. And as they, joke, especially about Telugu cinema, they say that there are 3 Telugu-speaking states. There's Andhra, Telangana, and Dallas.
Yeah.
So it's actually that much of an impact that Indian cinema has on a significant amount of patronage in North America. And I'm sure the sector there will work pretty efficiently to make sure that they don't lose the patronage of the Indian movie-going audiences over there.
So you're saying that demand is going to be pretty inelastic and people are going to come in even if you are going to see a jacking up of those ticket prices. Komal, as far as you're concerned, when you hear yourself, your other analysts saying, define to us what is truly an American-made movie. Now, that could be a nightmare if a Hollywood film has Indian crew or it has foreign funding. Where does it actually fall in the kind of definition they'd have to come up with? Because that ambiguity could make this kind of tariff unworkable to start with. Komal, that was for you.
Yes, definitely. It is ambiguous.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying now. He has made a comment which looks like a sweeping comment.
Correct.
Without really clarifying. Frankly speaking, knowing the way Trump is given to making comments, I don't think even he's clear in his head.
Right.
Probably he's just created a sensation.
Yeah.
And even he must be looking for some clarity.
Yes. No, so like I was asking Akshay, if this does go through, big numbers again, but blockbusters like RRR and Bahubali 2 and Pathan, they've made 150 to 200 crore rupees in the US. If tariffs actually double those ticket prices, what percentage hit do you realistically expect? Because can it be taken in by producers, by the distributors? Or do you think, the patronage that such films from the Telugu films to the Hindi films have enjoyed, that will go on from the Indian diaspora at least, that is going to be unabated, according to you?
Well, see, Vikram, for the films that really matter and that have great amounts of traction with the audiences, they will, turn up in significant numbers for those films. And we've seen it in India as well, right? A lot of films that don't create the right amount of FOMO don't sell tickets at 150 rupees. And then there are movies like the ones you mentioned, Triple R and Animal and Gadar and Jawan, which have sold a huge number of tickets at even 2,500 and 3,000 rupees in India.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it is the law of demand and supply. In the case of those 5 or 6 big ticket films that come in, beyond that, I think it'll be a question of, whether the patrons and whether the movie goers in North America find it worth their time, money and effort to go for those films. And that actually leaves a lot of our producers and filmmakers in deep waters in that sense.
Right.
So I really hope, and, much like Komalji and Shivashish so said, the fine print of everything that President Trump announces very often is different from what he tweets or puts out on his social media.
Yeah.
Just a week ago with that whole H-1B announcement,
Yes.
I'm sure you would have heard that a lot of people actually cancelled their plans to travel out of North America and back to India.
Correct.
And in 24 hours, there was a clarification that said that the whole charge on the H-1B visas
Yes.
won't apply to people who already have it.
Yes.
So they have some disastrous and silly implications.
Yes.
And I really hope that, President Trump's announcement here is much more pragmatic when the fine print comes into play.
Right, so we'll have to wait for the fine print. But Shubhashri Sarkar, since we are talking about all that VFX and the animation and the post-production that is so often outsourced to India now, and it is a revenue generator for the Indians, could such tariffs ironically end up hurting Hollywood more than Bollywood? Because the reason why they get it done over here is for the economics, because it turns out to be much cheaper for them to get it done here.
So, I mean, honestly, among all the sectors, what we are discussing among this, where it can it impact the theatrical, can it impact the OTT level consumption, or can it level the VFX and etc. I think that is one area which I feel that can be a real threat, because a substantial number of work, and it has been happening for decades, happens in India or many other non-US countries.
Yeah.
And it is not only the price leverage, it is also the quality of talent. It is not only a situation. So, of course, the Hollywood studios for over last 3-4 decades have allocated a substantial level of work which is happening in Eastern Europe, part of Europe, Southeast Asia, India, many countries. Now, if that is, even if he's trying to protect from a Hollywood job and Hollywood investment point of view,
Yeah.
and he made it a point that, okay, any work of Hollywood films doing outside will attract a tariff, that will really hurt not only the Hollywood studios, because it is not only possible as a financial thing, because you can't get so much of a talent bandwidth overnight and replace it in US, right?
Yes.
You need to depend upon other countries, because you need to create a bench over 5 years, 10 years time, you create a bench strength. And so that there will be a cost inflation, and some of the cost will be passed on to the vendors, like vendors in our countries, and some of the cost will be absorbed by the studios. I feel among all the areas, that's one area which I feel as Indian service providers, that's a real threat.
So at least, to some extent, the Americans could be shooting themselves in the foot if this threat does go through. But is this about protectionism? Let's get a creative perspective on this. Actor Nasir Abdullah is joining us. From your perspective, Nasir, this protectionism seems to be back. It's getting back in fashion globally. And cinema, of course, as a larger theme, is supposed to transcend borders, isn't it? Do you fear that political moves like this could shrink the global cultural exchange that films tend to create?
Yeah, I don't understand. Actually, we need to ask a question first. Why is Trump doing this? Why is he doing this? Does he want to make extra money? They are fighting 2 wars. And it's a known fact that America at any stage can fight 2 wars on this globe, maybe 3. The amount of money being spent is not funny. It is billions of dollars with the Israeli guys and the Gaza war and the Ukrainian war. They're helping and all that. So I don't understand what he's trying to do, what he's trying to achieve.
Isn't it about protectionism, Nasir? His explanation seems to be around protectionism. It's about keeping the American jobs in America and keeping the entertainment business within Hollywood.
No. Protectionism is a word. He's talking about charging a tariff to films made outside India, outside the US, and then he is going to charge them. I can't believe that he's being actually penny wise and pound foolish.
Yes.
I'm amazed, and I don't know why he's doing it. And I had a thought, because he's behaving very strangely, saying this, and maybe he wants to punish India or I don't know what is going on in his head.
But having said it,
he's being almost silly. He's being silly. He's also seemingly want to punish India for buying oil from Russia.
But having said that, Nasir, having said that, we are talking about cinema, which I started out by saying it transcends borders. Don't you think, despite these kind of threats, even if it goes through, art is always going to find a way to travel? Whether you have tariffs or no tariffs, thanks to technology and whatever else, you're always going to have that happen. It has in the past. Why don't you think it won't happen still?
Okay, here's the deal. Apparently, this extra cost will be borne by the people who go to view the movies, obviously, because if there is a tariff, they will need to increase the price of the tickets. The distributors Why do that? How much extra money will you make? There is so much wastage actually going on in actually criminal activities. They're helping all these guys do a genocide. And then what will he get? I fear for his mental sanity. I think the man is losing it, really, because I
Well,
can't
whether
understand why.
he is
he's
or not.
He's behaving like Gabbar Singh.
You
Very
think he's
strange,
behaving like
frightening
Gabbar Singh?
Everybody's running around. I think he needs a vacation. He needs a vacation. He goes
And maybe he needs to
go
watch
a
some Indian
spiritual place.
movies. Maybe he needs to watch some
meet
Indian
the Dalai
movies on
Lama.
that vacation.
He needs to meet the Dalai Lama and get his head sorted out, because he's had a life of plenty. He's a spoiled brat.
Let me ask.
Indicted in so many cases. He's mentally off.
Akshay, what do you think? Because as far as the pressure that may come about on theatre economics, if that tends to collapse, if that happens, do you think that it is an opportunity for OTT players? Will they step in to capture that audience? Do you think that's possible as well?
Well, see, Vikram, a lot of factors and moving parts come into play in that equation as well. Because for Indian movies, the primary market, of course, is India, where theatrical contributes a big chunk, and therefore that window between theatrical and OTT for Indian films is always going to be there, which is something that's been negotiated between exhibitors in India and producers in India. So irrespective of anything and everything, that window will be there. And Indian movies, even in North America on the same OTT platforms, will come 8 weeks after their theatrical release. So I don't think there's any big opportunity for the OTT platforms to really encash in this scenario. It will still be the regular system of theatrical followed by streaming and then other avenues of monetization. But yes, it probably will result in a lot of movies that don't have that sort of FOMO around them,
right,
which may or may not have been consumed in cinema, will probably get more preference of consumption on streaming platforms in markets like North America.
Yes.
If, again, the worst case scenario of what we understand of of President Trump's announcement to be true. And we still continue to wait for the fine print to know whether it really is that.
No, but talking about the geographical spread of Indian content, Shibashi's Sarkar, there is Canada, there is the United Kingdom, also Australia. They have thrived. They have lured Hollywood shoots with tax breaks. If Trump actually shuts that down, how do you assess the opportunity for India to pitch itself as the next big production hub? Even though, of course, we have to wait for the fine print, but to be able to talk for debate's sake, how do you think that could pan out? Because these countries have been at the forefront to lure Hollywood shoots. We haven't done that successfully, have we?
So I think if you recall, I mean, irrespective of this particular statement or the intention of Mr. Trump, from the last WAVE summit itself, our Honorable Prime Minister has made a strong pitch that how India can be the global hub of content creation. And there are multiple things we have to work around that to achieve that. But you are absolutely correct that the issues what he's raising because from the early 90s, the Hollywood production has started leaving the California and LA, and first it moved on to Canada, and then for after a decade it moved on to Spain, and now to South Korea, so multiple other countries, right? So, and that whole ecosystem has developed with great production facilities, great incentives and grant, best of the class work culture and ecosystem. So, if India wants to pitch in that space, irrespective of whatever is his objective or this particular stance, what Mr. Trump is taking, we have to work probably next few years or a decade, and we have to bring the country to that level.
So are we still battling some perception issues over there, Mr. Sarkar, from red tape or to infrastructure that stops us really from becoming a global shoot destination? Do you see hurdles there?
No, it's not a perception, but it's a reality. See, if you look at the strong positives of India. The positives of India is it's a huge country. We have every kind of location, from mountains to seas to every kind of locations is available.
Yes.
But where we have to probably develop ourselves is 3 or 4 areas. Number one, creating the overall ecosystem. And when I mean ecosystem, your best of class studios, your best of class production infrastructure, your best of class talent. Now, in all these, even in the infrastructure and even in the ecosystem of the equipment facilities, even you can build that in next 2 to 3 years, 5 years with the focus of the government.
Yes.
To build the best of class talent, you will need few decades, maybe at least 5 to 10 years, right? Because it doesn't happen overnight. So we have to work towards it. At least there is a start. And I'm pretty hopeful that with the intention of the government and private-public partnerships,
You're expecting it to happen, but now is the opportunity. And Komal Nahata, you tell us, if this tariff threat lingers, do you see Indian producers rethinking their release strategies for the US market, or do you think there is going to be something that we are going to dip into as an opportunity here?
You know, very sadly, there is not much unity among the Indian producers. I've seen that lacking. So I don't think they will act as a one united body. Each one will wait for what the others are doing, and probably life will continue in that fashion. That's the sad reality. For some strange reason, nobody seems to be thinking of the industry as a whole. Everybody is concerned about his film.
Yes.
And nobody realizes that each individual producer makes the entire industry. So if nobody is going to think, then everybody is going to suffer. And that has been the case in many other aspects and many other areas.
Yeah.
For some time at least, I feel this will continue. This attitude will continue.
Akshay, what's your take on this? From an exhibitor's standpoint, if these tariffs really make US releases unviable, do you think the focus could shift back fully to India's domestic box office as the primary growth engine? Do you think that could happen as well?
Vikram, I'll take a minute to give you an example of something that happened a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Russia went to war with Ukraine.
Yes.
And the Hollywood studios were made to put an embargo on Russia as a market, which was actually one of the bigger contributing markets for Hollywood films. In fact, 95% of the Russian box office was contributed by Hollywood films. And overnight, it went dry. You know, the Russian government took about a year and a half, put out the policies, the incentives for the local Russian content industry to really spruce itself up. And today, without Hollywood, the Russian box office market is back to about 85% to 90% of what it used to be with the Hollywood supply lines. I really think that, you know, see, this whole scenario will keep going on. Geopolitics will be fluid.
Yes.
And who knows, there will be a trade deal between India and North America in the next couple of months, and what we are talking may become irrelevant.
Correct.
Having said that, fundamentally, I think it's important that the Indian film fraternity, be it the exhibitors, be it the producers, with the right kind of policy, are given the runway it takes to strengthen our own domestic market. I still think there's a huge demand and a huge gap between where we are and what our potential is as a domestic market. All this is fine. Let's hope to really strengthen ourselves internally, and I think we'll continue to smash on as we have over the last 110 years as an industry.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the opportunity is great and you can look at it both ways. But like Nasir Abdullah is also pointing out, I mean, this is something that every country has to think about very closely and very minutely to kind of say whether you want to go in this direction or not. Cinema is about crossing borders and connecting people. So, Nasir, if I can ask you very quickly, what's your one message to those who want to wall it off with tariffs and trade wars, this kind of exchange that should happen between countries and economies?
Yeah, I don't see what was the need to increase this thing, which obviously befalls, the effect of that befalls on the
What would you tell them?
You know?
What would you tell them, Nasir?
Well, take it with a pinch of salt and hope that God blesses Mr. Trump with some intelligence and lets this ilaka be, because as it is, the film industry is going through a crunch. Cinemas are not doing very well. I have heard that from numerous sources. And let us hope. I think what will ultimately happen is Mr. Trump shows off his biceps, then he seems to cool down. So let's hope it's just a flexing and he will come back and be reasonable. You know,
being reasonable is the ask. Being reasonable is the ask. The tariff script on movies made outside the US, now that is half written like we discussed, but nothing is taking away from the growing appeal of Indian cinema, Indian content globally, whether it's Pathaan or Pushpa that lights up American theaters, or Hollywood blockbusters that are quietly running on Indian VFX firepower, all of that. The storytelling today refuses to be boxed in.
China.
Yes, all of them. There is a great opportunity. So we're not going to be bound by borders or levies. If Trump's 100% tariff ever makes it off his Truth Social page and into policy, it may well bruise some numbers. But like all of you are pointing out, it will not dent the hunger for Indian stories worldwide. That's something that I'm taking away. On that note, a big thank you to Komal Nahata, Akshay Rathi, Shibashish Sarkar, Nasir Abdullah. Thank you for your perspectives. And thank you all for watching us and joining us. I'm Vikram Oza. That was the big question from all of us at NDTV Profit. Good evening.